This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and this evening I'm with Councillor Jos Bigmore, who's the leader of the Residents for Guildford and Villages group, the second largest group at Guildford Borough Council, and also the lead councillor for financial matters at the council. Councillor Bigmore, thank you for giving us your time this evening.
That's no problem.
Now, Council Leader Caroline Reeves the other day called for stricter adherence to government guidelines aimed at delaying the coronavirus infection. Do you have anything to add to that message?
I completely agree with every word she said, Martin. I mean, there are three things we need to do as a country. We need to help the NHS by controlling the rate of infection down to a level that they can handle. We need to protect the elderly and those that are already poorly. And we need to help our businesses by ensuring we get through this as quickly as possible. Now, to do that, we have to adhere strictly to the government guidelines. I think, to be fair to the government and its advisors, they've kind of given us responsibility for our own actions. And unfortunately, last weekend showed that we couldn't really take responsibility. So they've had to ratchet up the guidelines and make things a bit more onerous on people. If they could do that again, I don't want to be in a situation where I have to download a form to leave my house. I quite enjoy the 1 hour a day I get outside the house, walk the dogs or go for a run. That could be taken away. So I think we all have a responsibility to each other just to listen to the government and just do what they say. And let's try and, get through this as quickly as possible.
And what's your opinion of the government's handling of the crisis from a borough council point of view? Are they giving you enough information? Are they listening to your feedback?
I think they're in an impossible situation. Are they listening to the feedback? I think they're listening to the feedback from the country. I think they're to be fair, they're coming up with an amazing array of statements and support for the economy. And I think where holes appear, the council and various business groups are feeding back. And you've seen tonight with the self-employed, the new schemes, the government is listening. These are big numbers, enormous amounts of people. This has never happened in our lifetimes, probably. So, I think we need to cut them a bit of slack. Is information perfect? Is the messaging sometimes a little bit muddled? Yes, it is. But, I think to be able to get through something like this without making the odd misstep is impossible. So I think the government has shown a tremendous amount of support for people and business. And now it's the Borough Council's job is to ensure that the money that they're promising gets to the people and the businesses that need it as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And how are you personally fitting in your council duties with the lockdown?
Well, I think the council work is kind of bifurcated. There's the response to the health crisis, very much led by Caroline, very much led by James Whiteman, doing a tremendous job. Then there is kind of the ongoing work of providing essential service to the people that need it. And to be clear, there are a lot more people that need it at the moment, is the other side of council. There's a lot of non-essential things that we're not doing. There's, agenda items for meetings have been postponed, committee meetings postponed. So really focusing on the core activities and finding out who needs our help and making sure they get the help they need.
Okay, but the IT infrastructure is allowing you to communicate sufficiently to do this work.
Yes, so very fortuitously, the council going through Future Guildford has just gone through a massive IT upgrade. So we have all the councillors have laptops. We have Microsoft Teams. Sorry to plug Microsoft, but it works really quite well. So yes, we are able to function. It's it's different, but as we're talking now, you get used to it because you have to. One benefit is you only have to be smart from the waist up.
Yeah, and the councillors, are all of them sufficiently trained or IT literate, if to use that word, to handle the equipment they've got?
Everyone's coming up to speed pretty quickly.
Yeah,
they have to.
Okay.
It's not rocket science to talk on a screen as opposed to talk on a phone.
Right.
So I think we haven't yet had a meeting with 15, 20 councillors in it all trying to talk at the same time. So I think we're gonna there's obviously plans to have dummy runs and to work out how we're actually going to manage that before we come to business.
Okay. So are the public able to witness these online meetings?
Well, As yet, it's not clear because by statute, I think that's the right word, you cannot host some of these meetings virtually. So part of the coronavirus bill was setting out how councils can actually execute business. So up until that bill, and I'm not sure the regulations have actually been published yet about what we can actually do now. So obviously you couldn't exclude the public from a committee meeting unless it was confidential information.
Yeah.
Now, whether as how we're going to invite the public or have public speakers to those meetings is not clear.
But
so, for example, the planning committees, we are attempting to postpone everything, especially something that's controversial, because you obviously don't want to have a meeting where you've got 50 members of the public want to come and talk. So I mean, there has to be a certain amount of common sense with this.
Okay, so there's flexibility being shown, but are you able to post them as webcasts afterwards or not, or you don't know yet?
I believe we can. So the fact we would have a virtual meeting that you effectively could even broadcast live, I would have thought, just as if we were talking now, there may be a way that you could broadcast that.
Yeah.
But that's something. There is a full council meeting scheduled for April the 7th that we're postponing for 2 to 3 weeks to get this technology and the capabilities and to check what we're allowed to do by law.
Okay.
And this is the same for every council across the country.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And I'm sure people will understand because, we're in a crisis and an emergency situation. Now, you're the... before we go on to that, so in your daily routine, you talked about you can do your council duties, okay. How are you personally getting your exercise and shopping? And when you're out and about, how do you observe others behaving?
Well, I think, in Guildford, we're surrounded by beautiful countryside, so I think we can all get out and exercise safely without encroaching on each other's personal space. So I think we're very blessed in where we live. And I think one of the dangers is if people abuse that and suddenly we're effectively locked in our homes. I assume many people listening to this have gardens. Well, a lot of the people in the country do not. So if you imagine being stuck in a flat for the next 2 or 3 weeks, only allowed out to do your shopping would be horrendous. So I think, again, this is why we all have a responsibility to act responsibly within the government guidelines. So that's exercise. Shopping, I did a click and collect this morning, so that was pretty painless. I think, as regards other people's behaviour, it's getting better and better. Obviously, you go through cycles. No one wanted to believe this was serious to start with, so effectively ignoring it. Then gradual increasing numbers of people realise that this is actually deadly serious. And people are now observing. Shops are getting better at managing the number of people in it. Queuing up is now, policed 2 meters apart. So I think everyone is catching on, and to be fair, catching on quickly. And I think whilst a lot of noise is made by the minorities that are abusing the advice and going their own way, I think we have to be very grateful for the vast majority of people that are taking this very seriously.
So have you witnessed any poor behaviour? Not
personally.
No.
I mean, last weekend there was obviously I live quite close to St Martha's, and there was it was a lot of people walking far too close to each other. That was clear. It was a beautiful sunny day, and it was the spring has been stunning the last week.
Yeah.
And that was disappointing, but I don't think we'll see that this weekend.
No. Okay. And are you getting reports from the police that they've got problems at the moment?
Not at all. I have not. I'm not part of the COVID group that meets every morning where the police are involved. But had a group leaders meeting yesterday, and it was not mentioned the police had raised any concerns. Okay,
thank you. Now you're the lead councillor for council finances, as I said in the intro. What's the impact? I mean, presumably there's a significant impact, a major impact of this on the council's finances.
Yeah, I mean, it's devastating, to be honest. We are effectively a local business. The days where we get a central government grant are long gone. So we are responsible largely, for our own income. So we obviously have car parks. We are a commercial landlord. We provide service for which we charge fees. And Guildford Spectrum shut. So I mean, all these things have a huge impact on our revenues. And then on the other side of the equation, obviously all of the costs preparing for any worsening of this crisis. All the contingency plans, we're picking up all the costs for that. So, for this year, I mean, the forecast impact on the budget is in the millions. So it's not it's significant. Now, Guildford is fortunate in that, you know, years of financial prudence means we have some reserves, but it's, you know, that's once spent, that's gone. So I mean, you know, at the end of this, we're going to be in the queue with everyone else with the bowl to central government saying, can we have some money, please? Because, you know, as I said, you know, our parking revenue has gone to zero overnight. You know, there's, you know,
parking being the main item on your income streams.
Parking is getting on for I think 10 million a year.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, if you had 3 months of zero, that's significant. I mean, you can do the maths, I'm sure.
Yeah. Even I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's you know, this is money that has to be found. So either from reserves or from central government. So you know, I have a lot of empathy for businesses and individuals whose revenues have gone to zero overnight and whose incomes have gone to zero overnight. It is incredibly concerning.
Okay, so what's the scale of the problem? I mean, have you presumably someone's already working out a projection of how you know, what percentage of your...
I mean, it's a pretty big range, to be honest with you. I mean, I've just got these numbers about car parking. I mean, it all depends. I mean,
how long it lasts, I guess.
How long it lasts, and it also depends how quickly the money from central government supporting business gets to business. Because obviously, if businesses continue to pay rent and they can furlough their staff and the staff can get the money from government, then we can effectively, well, hopefully, which is what the government wants, is kind of put business in hibernation, and then hopefully this demand shock. You know, once we get through the crisis, the demand shock disappears, the demand's there. We really need the supply side of the economy. So if we don't keep these businesses going, you know, the demand's going to be there and we're not going to have the businesses to supply the goods and services. So we need to make sure that this hopefully short-term demand shock doesn't turn into a medium and long-term supply shock to the economy. So I mean, I don't want to gloss over, you know, the obvious health crisis, but there is an ongoing economic crisis as well in this whole thing that's kind of, you know, it is secondary, understandably, because the health crisis and people dying is of primary importance. But we also need to navigate in the medium term how we deal with keep supporting our business such that when the economy does recover, the businesses can just start up again like that, and we can get going again.
Okay. Now we know that business rates have been suspended. Are your business rents that normally you receive, have they also been suspended for the moment?
A number of businesses have contacted us asking for help. Government guidance is we can defer for 3 months.
Right. Okay. And then, of course... Sorry.
Carry on.
Then, of course, we've also got, I think, around 5,000 council house tenants. Now, some of them, of course, will have been affected, especially if they've been self-employed, although hopefully they're reassured this evening. So what's the policy for getting rent from them?
I think if you're a tenant, be it a residential tenant or a business that is worried about its rent, the same with council tax as well. You know, if you think you're worried and you think you may have problems, contact us. There are existing support schemes. There's council tax support schemes there. You know, there are, and also new pots of money that are being announced from government. We will help you try and get that money.
Okay.
What the thing to do is to stick your head in the sand and think it'll all be okay, because you need to talk to us. You know, there's no shame. There are thousands of individuals, there are hundreds of businesses that have seen their incomes go to zero overnight. It's incredibly worrying, massively unsettling, and that's besides you start worrying about your own health. So please talk to us.
Okay.
You know, there are schemes in place and there are teams of people available to try and help you get the support you need to get through this.
And another group that might need extra help are the homeless. Now, I know it's a complicated issue, we've covered it before, but are there any extra efforts being made for them at the moment?
I mean, we're in constant communication with the people that are living on the street, and most of them are known to the council teams. I mean, it's a sad fact that some people prefer living on the street. I mean, you know, it's one of those things that the amount of people say, well, why can't you just find beds? A lot of times there are beds in hostels, but if people don't want to use them, it's
a lot of time there are beds in hospital.
There are, yes, they're available.
Yes.
Now, there's not always enough beds.
No.
But, you know, I'm sure, you know, there are some beds available most nights. So if people don't want to use them, it's very hard to force them. So, I mean, all we can do is keep being in contact, keep offering the services that we can, and try and get people off the street. But unfortunately, Martin, some people don't want the help yet. And I'm sure they'll come around at some point, but all we can do is keep talking.
Okay. Now, what I've noticed when I'm taking my exercise is there's still a lot of buses running around. Most of them with, well, a lot of them are empty, and if they have got any passengers, it's one or two. Do we? I know some people might need them to get to work and back, but do we need as many as we've got now?
I mean, this is complex. I mean, the buses are privately run for a start, so it's very difficult for us to start telling companies what to do. You're also seeing the issue in London where the mayor can't run a full tube service and getting criticism because too many people are getting forced on tube through trains, so they're all too close together.
Yes.
So start restricting the bus services, and then the people start clambering on fewer buses, and the density of those people on the buses increases. Obviously, that's an infection risk. So it's not clear to me what the right answer is with that.
Okay. But I've also noticed that the park and rides are still open, and yet you're saying that there's plenty of parking space in the town centre. So do we really need those at the moment?
Park and ride, a lot of key workers use park and ride.
Right, and they can't park in the centre at the moment?
Well, they can park if they choose to, but park and ride is cheaper.
And they still have to pay in the centre at the moment?
At the moment, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of the... There again is a difficult conversation, because you make parking zero. Are you then encouraging people to use the car parks that should be sat at home because they can get free? So again, we've had that discussion, and it is not clear to me what the right answer is. So our current policy is there's park and ride that's working. We're keeping the charging on our car parks. Now, when things return to normal, if we have a 3 weeks parking to try and kickstart the high street, I think that's probably a better use for free car parking. You know, and encourage the businesses, encourage people to come into the town and park for free when none of the businesses are open. Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
Right. Okay. Understood. Now, what else? Oh yes, I think finally, I think we've covered the ground I wanted to. Thank you very much. Do you have a message for fellow residents in the borough this evening?
I just think, you know, people have just got to listen to the government, support each other. I mean, the community action that's been going on in the last fortnight, 3 weeks, has been unbelievable. You know, there was a mother at my daughter's school that started a fundraising page to deliver free fruit and veg to Royal Surrey, raised nearly 10 grand in 3 days. You know, I think she's got enough now to deliver food there for 2 months. It's, you know, and there's countless parish councils getting involved, and it really is amazing how the communities are rallying around. So keep doing that. Keep looking out for each other. And looking out for each other is not necessarily going and doing someone's shopping. It's listening to the government's rules. It's washing your hands. It's staying away from people. You know, and I think, you know, the other thing that a personal plea is make sure you get your news and your information from accredited news sources like the Guildford Dragon.
Okay.
Your mate Bill down the pub that knows on someone in Italy is not a good source of information, and that is dangerous when kind of half truths and misrepresentations become fact on social media. That's a real concern. So official news, keep calm is another thing, because panic. You know, we've seen what the panic does in the shops. It's that will cause this thing to drag on even longer. So keep, you know, do the British thing. Keep calm, carry on, look out for yourself and look out for your neighbours.
Well, Councillor Bigmore, thank you very much again for your time this evening. I really do think, I mean, I found this informative, and I hope our readers will as well. I think these interviews can be very useful for keeping people up to date and briefed, and giving an insight into what's going on behind the scenes, because I'm sure a lot of us do realise the councillors and the council workers are doing a really important job behind the scenes, and I'm sure it's very much appreciated.
Well, thank you, Martin. Yes, I think everyone that works in the public sector at the moment is doing an amazing job.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Thank you.